More or more less?
Probably more or less.
He said no.
He said no.
Look, man, I don't know who you are, but whoever you're looking for,
So you're fast.
that feels like an oversimplification.
I'm putting together a team. People with special abilities. You see, I believe enemies are coming.
Stop right there. I'm in.
You are?
Hey YouTubers, it's Charlie. This is going to be my ranking of Justice League teams in the comics. We're about a year away from the movie. There have been so many different versions of the team in the comics. So for most of DC Comics history, since the Silver Age, Justice League has been like the ticket to the show. Like when you get called to the Justice League, that's the highest level you can get to. But the very first time that the Justice League as we know it now came together was in a title called Brave and the Bold, number 28. The famous cover that you've seen of them fighting Starro. Now, for the most part, canonically, that is the original Justice League. But later things like the New 52, more recent like Rebirth, have retconned characters in and out. So for like a period during the 80s, the original Justice League team got retconned so that it said that Black Canary was a founding member and Wonder Woman was not. But then later during the New 52, they retconned Wonder Woman back in. They've also swapped Cyborg in for Martian Manhunter. So like Martian Manhunter was a founding member of the Justice League, but then later they retconned Cyborg in. So you kind of have to add like a little asterisk, like a little notation next to original Justice League when you go see the movie next year. Now it's going to be really cool. Cyborg is still a cool character. Black Canary is still a really cool character too. But pretty much every best version of the Justice League, there have been many different rosters. All the best versions have the Trinity on the team, with the exception of Justice League Dark. So like everybody, there were periods of the comics where I didn't read, so I missed a couple of these teams and then went back and read them later, like as they were being published, because I was a little kid during the 80s and the 90s. So I will honorarily call this original version number 10, because clearly I was not old enough to have read this originally. And I think a lot of your favorite Justice League teams just depend on when you started reading comics. But moving down the list, this is one of like the B rosters, Justice League United. This was basically a New 52 team led by Martian Manhunter. But one of the things the New 52 is most famous for is trying to go super dark, super hardcore. So naturally the spin-off team was going to be more hardcore than the original Justice League anyway, but add the New 52 creative on top of that, and you have like a stabby, super crazy version of the Justice League. So as you can imagine, not quite as popular as the main title, but the team itself only lasted for about a year. They got destroyed during the Forever Evil storyline. But then, next one on the list, interesting idea, a little more hardcore, a little more stabby, but not quite as cool. There was something called the Justice League Elite. Pretty cool idea, but a little controversial just because they were so much more stabby than you would think a Justice League team would be. Like there's certain things that all heroes have in common, and usually it's not shooting people or stabbing people in the face at every turn. So just chalk it up to a lot of the darkness that was happening in the New 52. Next is the post-52 relaunched Justice League. You could also think of them as like the 1 year later Justice League. Now the 52 title was around Final Crisis, not to be confused with the New 52. Slightly different thing, but also comics had taken a slightly darker turn. So this was the team that came right after Identity Crisis, one of the most controversial, hated storylines in all of DC Comics involving the Justice League. But this was the team where Black Canary first became the leader of the Justice League. Those of you that watch Young Justice and see that Black Canary is in charge of the Justice League, this is the first time that officially happened. They also added Roy Harper, Vixen, and Black Lightning to the team. A lot of you may have heard that Greg Berlanti just sold a Black Lightning TV show, but I think it's to Fox. It's not going to be on the CW, but there is a Black Lightning TV show. And obviously Vixen is going to be on Legends of Tomorrow Season 2. Next, I'll say Justice League International was a really cool idea. It was basically Maxwell Lord putting together an all-star team of B-level heroes. So like you have the Wally West Flash, you have Guy Gardner, you have some of the A-list, like Batman's on the team, of course, but you have Booster Gold, Blue Beetle, so this was during that time. So really fun idea that they later repurposed during Identity Crisis, the story that I just mentioned, where Maxwell Lord turns evil and you get like supervillain Maxwell Lord. This was during the time when he was not so much the supervillain. Next on the list is what they kind of think of as the satellite team during the Crisis on Infinite Earths era. That was in like the early 80s, where you basically have like a big team, like a really big team, living on the Justice League Watchtower satellite. A lot of the way they wrote that series, the dynamics of the team, as well as the actual roster itself, got used as a template by later Justice League writers. So like the more modern incarnations, or like the Grant Morrison JLA team, which I'll talk about, it's a little bit higher on my list. That was inspired in part by that satellite team. It also came during a really interesting era in DC Comics, where they were cleaning up their history with Crisis on Infinite Earths. Next I'll say is the New 52 Justice League roster. You know, classic A-list Trinity-based roster, but this was the one that swapped in Cyborg as a founding member, like said that he was a founding member in not Martian Manhunter, and also put Wonder Woman back on the team instead of Black Canary. But even though the artwork was good and it was an interesting concept, I just felt like creative wasn't quite as good during the New 52 in general, so that's why it's not like closer to the top of my list. The really interesting thing that they did during the New 52 that they had not done before was Captain Cold became a member of the Justice League, and Lex Luthor. They've been having a little bit of fun with his character more recently too, the Lex Luthor character. Like you may have seen him in that Superman Kryptonian armor. Like it's a big WTF twist. Next up on the list, and most of you will probably know this as the animated Justice League, have seen at least a couple of the movies they did. If it looks familiar, like Batman the Animated Series, it's because Bruce Timm worked on it. Bruce Timm was one of the creators of Batman the Animated Series, so this just kind of flowed out of that animated universe. You can actually catch a lot of these animated movies either on streaming services, they re-air them on TV all the time. But then I'll say next favorite is Justice League Dark. Even if the comic didn't pay off the way I wanted it to, I just really like the concept. I like them taking a chance, but they are releasing the animated Justice League Dark movie when New York Comic Con happens. So that's happening like the next week. You should be able to watch that really soon. So it was all born during the New 52, like one of the really interesting ideas from the New 52, even if everything didn't pan out the way we wanted it to. So just can't wait to see what it looks like in the live action universe, because they are developing a live action Justice League Dark. So if they say anything cool about it, I'll totally do a new video about that. But favorite Justice League team is the Grant Morrison JLA team. So this is Tower of Babel era Justice League. It was sort of like Grant Morrison coming along after a string of B-list rosters saying, I want to return to the classic A-list roster, instill this level of mythology in the title. Like Grant Morrison has the craziest ideas, and even if they seem kind of weird, it always ends up being really cool. So I'll say Grant Morrison's mythological Pantheon JLA is my favorite Justice League roster. But the thing is a lot of you know about Tower of Babel. It's an amazing Justice League story, very iconic. But Mark Waid actually wrote Tower of Babel. You know, they're doing a lot of Mark Waid stuff on The Flash Season 3 this year. Mark Waid wrote Tower of Babel, not Grant Morrison. So let me know in the comments, what is your favorite Justice League roster? I mean, is it like the classic A-list roster? How do you feel about them retconning characters in, characters out? Like, do you want to see Black Canary on Justice League? Or do you like that Cyborg and Wonder Woman are in? I feel like, you know, because of the way movies work, you want to go with like the biggest bang for the buck. Yeah, you have to put Wonder Woman on the team. And I think the reason why they're not doing Martian Manhunter, one, because he's not quite as popular a character right now as Cyborg is, because you've already got Superman, the alien, on the team. They don't want two aliens. Like, they want everybody to feel as different as possible. So I will say congratulations to this week's Flash giveaway winner, Sakari Richard. You win a gift certificate for the Flash Season 2 Blu-ray. Just be sure to private message me on the back end of my channel so I can get your contact details. There is a new round that starts now. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave a comment on this video. So what's going to happen is there'll be new Game of Thrones, maybe some new Walking Dead tomorrow. There's some new footage of Season 7, so I might do a new trailer video for that. But all the DC shows are coming back really soon, so there'll be a lot of DC stuff dropping next week just to get people hyped up. We also have Luke Cage that's dropping, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Ghost Rider. So if you're not sure when stuff is coming, I'll try to remind everyone about Marvel stuff in the Marvel videos, DC stuff in the DC videos. So it's all going to be awesome. Congratulations, you've made it this long. Like, you made it all summer. Now everything is back. While you guys wait for my next video, you can click here to rewatch that Flash trailer like a billion more times, and you can click here to rewatch that Supergirl Superman trailer. Thank you so much for watching. Everybody, let's high five. I'll see you guys tonight.